Hello and welcome to Clay to Canopy, the show where I attempt to make just about everything from the ground up. It is time for the big reveal of this woodland feast, but it would not be a feast without the food. In this video, I'm going to make the food and also give you the big reveal of how this environment all came together. So come on, let's do this. I have gone out into our garden here and collected bits and bobs of what I could find that were fresh and ready to go. It is still springtime here, so some of the things are not quite ready. I do still have my killer tomato plant that I will make use of. I have gone to the grocery store, picked up a few extra things just to supplement some of the items I'm going to be using. I'm trying to stick as close to what you might find foraging in the forest or things that would commonly be found growing out in nature, or at least close to. I have kale. Kale's an offshoot of wild mustard, which is also how we got broccoli. It was hybridized. I'm not going to get into all of those details, but anyway, I've picked items that would still be reminiscent of the woods, of things you might find in the forest, things that would have that, and also a bit of my home garden here, because for me, it is that closest touch to nature that I have. Whenever I'm feeling like I need to reconnect and reground, I just go out into the garden and, play amongst the plants. I have some salmon that I'm going to be working with, and as the human interacting with this feast, I thought it would be fitting to create a wedding cake, since the original idea came from a squirrel and a chipmunk's wedding. So I'm going to be making a lemon blueberry wedding cake to go into the dessert board. I have a parsnip, mushroom, leek, fennel soup, some roasted salmon, and some roasted vegetables that will be the meals that go into the egg. I have a bunch of things that I harvested for a salad that will go into the beaver inspired salad, along with some of these tomatoes. And then I will be making a trio of desserts. I've decided to do a poached pear, some kind of berry tart thing, making it up as I go, and then the wedding cake. All right, I'm gonna get into this. I never really called myself an installation artist. I think that people have always said my work was installation work, and I guess I just accepted it over time, but there's always been this element of incorporating food. I want you to have an experience when you see my work, incorporating themed things that go along with whatever sculpture or experience I'm trying to give you at that time. Taking food and adding it into these environments, it just was very natural leap for me. It was something that went along with the process. When you walk into a gallery, you're expected to just observe the work. You're basically on the outside looking into that space. The materials I use, I like to call them domestic materials, things that you would find in your home. You see them in the most mundane ways, from your coffee cup. Wood is the structure of your house. It's what holds up everything around you. Textiles, they warm you at night. So I like to use all of these domestic materials that you're so familiar with that you want to just touch and feel, and by its own nature, it kind of draws you into my work. I'm a sculptor and realizing right now I'm doing environments, and they're very functional sculpture type items that are designed by their nature to draw you in and make you want to touch them, sit on them, interact with them. But my regular sculptures also utilizing those domestic materials. I want to draw my viewer in. I want my viewer to come into contact with it, want to touch it, want to feel it, want to experience it. And the addition of the food is just going that one step further. It takes you out of being the observer, out of being just the person who is just there to watch or look at, adding in this element of food that is thematically tied to whatever I'm presenting you with at the time. You're smelling and tasting, activating those other senses so that you can engage with the work on a completely different level. You become another aspect of the art, and everything you are and the way you interact with the work is a language and a dialogue you're having directly with it, and the work is speaking back to you as you speak to the work and enhance it and influence it. I was thinking about woodland creatures. Beaver dams came to mind, the way that they harvest wood, and I really liked the idea of these piles of wood habitats and the underwater aspect and this multi-layered type of thing. Automatically, I just thought salad. I don't know, I was thinking about plants that you would find underwater. For my salad though, I'm just going to be sticking to things that you might find out in the wild or in my backyard garden in this case. When I originally came up with the concept of the Woodland Feast, it was never intended to be this large environment. It literally was just me thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great to make a ceramic serving set that I could serve this multi-course meal with. You were never meant to experience all three of the place settings all at once. You're meant to be seated at a table and, the first course would come out, the beaver dam inspired course, and that would be your salad. You'd enjoy your salad, and then that dish would be taken away and the next course would be brought out, which would be the egg in this case. That would be small bites of 3 different dishes. You'd have a soup, some sort of main dish, in this case this is going to be the salmon, and then your side, and you would work your way down, completing the dishes. And then that setting would also be removed. The final course would be brought out, the desserts, the hollowed out tree log, a small, flight of desserts. Realize tomatoes are not something that you might find out in the forest, but the tomatoes are a total personal thing for me. When I lost my dad, one of the things that I started doing was gardening again, and I planted out a tomato plant. And I had one tomato plant, and it had the most ridiculous amount of tomatoes on it. It had lasted for several years until I moved out of that place. And I always thought that as my dad being by my side, no matter where I was, as long as I planted one tomato plant, I'd never go hungry, because it was my dad watching over me, making sure that I'd always have tomatoes to eat. Ironically enough, these tomatoes are from what I keep calling my killer tomato plant. We have this one tomato plant that was a saladette tomato. The tomatoes did not get nearly as large as they should have been. They should have been double this size. However, that thing was planted last year. It's well over a year old, and I just harvested this insanely large basket full of tomatoes. Artistic freedom with this salad of mine. Alright, I'm going to start in on the mushroom, leek, parsnip, and fennel soup. I'm going to prep these vegetables, dice them loosely, roast them all in my oven for 400 degrees. All of that is going to get thrown into a blender and turned into a bisque. The egg was inspired, I keep calling the egg a dragon egg because of its scale. My thought process was, there's many animals who have different eggs. I can envision an animal bringing eggs to this feast, and because this egg is so large, in my head I just kept calling it dragon, and of course I used my favorite pine cone, ironically, that creates the best dragon-like texture on ceramics. It's now become this giant dragon egg, so this mystical quality of what's slumbering in the woods that we don't know about. Just finishing off the soup, got all of my roasted vegetables that I'm throwing into my NutriBullet, and I am adding some vegetable stock. I'm gonna get started on the roasted vegetables for the side. I had a couple volunteer potatoes grow in the box out there. Pulled what I could from those. They were still in one of the bins that I had taken apart for the peanut. It was happily growing, so I just left that one box. Have some very tiny baby squash. Segment my tray here. So I'm going to roast it all at once and start it at the same start time, but I think the potatoes are going to need to stay in a little bit longer than the other veggies. I wanted to keep the stems, but I just don't think that's going to be possible with the size of the dish. So we're just going to take off. Y'all know the myth about the baby carrots, right? Just kind of squish them in a machine and make them baby. There's really no such thing as baby carrots. Let's face it, I eat all the leftovers, and I just polished off that wonderful salad. Even if they don't look right on my plate, I'm still gonna eat them anyway. Got some itty bitty green beans from the garden. Those are gonna get thrown in too. Keep my greens on this side. It's 90 today. My veggies are wilting that I have out here. Some asparagus. I'm gonna put this into roast as well. Add a bit of olive oil. Salt, and a bit of sumac. I like the idea of having this one herb that carries through all the dishes, presents itself, so that even though you're having different flavors happen as you go through the courses, having this one element I think really helps to prep your palate. I might have one particular herb start with that first course, have something carry over into the second course, and then pick up another note or another element of that course and have that carry in. It's this way to flow into the next dish. laid out some mesquite wood chips. I'm gonna roast my salmon over the mesquite wood chips. Very small salmon fillet. I have some local sage honey. This is purple sage honey. And then I have some smoked paprika. A little bit of salt. Cracked pepper. And of course, a light touch of that sumac. Everybody meet Scarlett. If you haven't met Scarlett already, please don't tell Joanne. Every now and then I do cheat on Joanne with Scarlett. I am going to prep the poaching bath. This has got to be like the best wine. It's the most amazing poaching wine, but if you don't have this, you can use a regular red wine. I have a 1/4 cup of sugar, equal parts water to wine, pears, some mulling spices. I'd like to use this packet of mulling spice just to add a little bit of extra, but then in addition to that, I have a cinnamon stick, some nutmeg, dehydrated orange peel, ginger, maize, allspice, clove, and star anise. I have not been able to find vanilla beans as fresh vanilla beans, so I'm just going to be using a vanilla bean from my batch of bourbon vanilla, my vanilla extract that I've been making. So I'm going to go ahead and first get this going in the simmer pot. And now I'm going to prep my pears. Normally I do these with whole pears if I'm serving a large scale dessert, but as this is going into a dessert flight, I do need much smaller pieces, so I am going to be balling the pear, which is why I really wanted to get my mulling bath here going. I want to make sure that I can immediately throw these into the bath so that they don't brown on me, as this is going to be a little bit longer of a step than normal. I'm going to bring this to a boil. Once that happens, I'm going to turn it down to a simmer and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Normally the larger ones I simmer for a good 45 minutes, then I will set it aside to let it absorb those juices. I just don't want my pears to become too mushy. Moving on to some whipped cream with mascarpone. It's now time to blind bake my tartlet crusts. Alright, these are a bit on the large side, but we're going to try them out. Y'all are like, what are those? These are my handmade ceramic pie weights. I have been making batches of these while I am on campus in between things. I'm going to chill this for about 5 or 10 minutes because that butter really melted out here on the heat. And then they will go into the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes to bake. Starting in on the cake, going to first cream together my sugar and butter. And prep this candy dish for the wedding cake, white chocolate, and a bit of coconut oil. I'm going to microwave 30-second intervals until it's melted. I much prefer this one. I think it looks more like wedding cake, but this is a Woodland Feast, so I'm also going to hit this one, and then I need a couple backup just in case these don't work out. This is going to go into the freezer. Yeah, I tested it. Had to make sure. Had to make sure. Here it is, y'all, the Woodland Feast. Alright, y'all, I hope you enjoyed watching this environment come together. Please like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so already, and I hope to see you soon.